Right, John Ockertell, as I was saying, is our next speaker. Could everyone take their seats, please, because we need to really move this afternoon. We're very, very much over time. Stamp on the cigarettes, put the coffee out, do whatever you want, but get back here, please, now. What's PRA?
Phenomena Research Australia.
Is everyone ready to rock and roll? Good? Okay. John Ockertell is from Phenomena Research Australia, Victoria. And John was born in Papua New Guinea. John left Papua New Guinea in 1970 to take up university studies, army life and a career in aviation. He now lives in Melbourne, and his 25-year interest in UFOs includes 10 years' work with the Victorian UFO Research Society. And John is the director of Aerial Phenomena Research, a collective which investigates strange phenomena. 1997 airspace intrusion near Pine Gap is the topic this afternoon. It appears that in 1997, residents west of Alice Springs reported a UFO north of Pine Gap. I remember that well. And PRA conducted an investigation and collected important evidence for an airspace intrusion, including a video, a possible ground effect site, and reports of cattle and EMF effects. So here's John. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I'm taking this with me. I've got to do this on you.
Okay.
Okay. So here we go.
Don't worry. I'm right. Thanks very much.
Okay.
Rightio. Which one's actually the mic? We're right? Everybody can hear? Right. Good. Thank you very much. I won't be long. I'll shorten my my talk to you. I'll get down the main information about the encounter at Pine Gap, but I'd like to go through some basics to start off with while technology catches up with us. The main thing is I'd like to say thank you for inviting me. It's a great pleasure to be here, especially to members of the UFO Research New South Wales for putting on the conference. I think it's important to have these conferences. They're vital to us. It makes us see each other, and it's important to have contact with each other, which we haven't had for the last 20 years. In the last 2 years we've had so many conferences, I don't know what to do with them, but at least we know each other, which is vitally important, rather than fighting each other. Even though the fighting goes on, I quite enjoy that too. But I'd also like to thank Brian and the committee, Wendy and Dudley, for their work communicating, seeing all my letters seem to get lost, so I don't know where ASIO's involved in, obviously, but more like me mucking it up. Anyway, to start off with, I'd like to give you a warning. I want to just inform you that I'm not trying to please anybody with these lectures. People expect me to please them, so if you don't like what I'm saying, that's tough luck, not my problem. I might also say science is not the final arbitrator in these processes. Science is a tool that's used. It's a very important tool. It's a very good tool, but it's just one of many tools. I find human response is just as important as science, but science is the area I work in. However, I'm not a scientist by trade. I'm in the aviation industry, but I use science as my major tool. I don't offer any theories in regards to these sightings. It's up to you to come to those conclusions. I have my own theories, they're personal. And I have no current answers to the UFO phenomenon, even though I've got about 100 theories and possible answers to it. And also I might also state the research is always ongoing. It never ends, unfortunately. Just when you think you've got a handle on it all, along comes another encounter and it absolutely throws you apart. The other warnings that I'd like to bring to you is that even though I'm lecturing about a base that's a very important Australian and American base, mainly a US base, I want to warn you that it's illegal to go on the base, so don't go screaming into the area thinking you've got you can do what you like there. You'll get the long arm of the law will land upon your head and you'll end up in the calaboose very quickly. and don't break into base regulations. You can if you want to, but there's a consequence to that. So unlike when we do Paul Norman and I do crop circles, we've discovered in the past that when we tell an area that there's a UFO encounter occurs, as Paul would vouch for it, next day everybody's out there trampling over everything, every farmer goes berserk. It's not uncommon, so consequently we tend to keep our sites and locations very quiet because of not so much the general public, us being worried about the general public, but it's just the way people just trample on the grounds without consideration of other people. I'd like to take the first OHP, just to start off on a light note. These are the things that came in the local papers, just to indicate how UFOs are now infiltrated our press, and it's quite common to see things like this. Could I have the next one? Even to the stage where our sacred things like football, that's a Melbourne cartoon. You can see UFOs in the distance, and this is the other one, which is to do with Sydney, which indicates that we're all. It's a common occurrence now to be seen with UFOs. So you can see that it's a good subject now. It's not regarded as being something dirty. So we're on the right track, if you know what I mean. There's a lot of vision going through, so I'm going to get started for you now. I'm sorry I didn't bring my laptop computer. It's better resolution, but I think the video here will be ample. My main part of the lecture will be two videos. However, I'll be adding notes to that to explain certain parts of the video itself that will help you. I might also say you're lucky to see the videos. It took quite a while to get them. They're from an authority in the department, in the Army department. They've been handed out to me through friends. However, they're quite happy to let us see them. I think it's important for us to see them. I might just say that they've asked me to tell you that at no time was any public or military security breach. So I don't know what that means at all. Now, the introduction video, which I'll get you to start, is done by one of my crews. It's just an introduction. I should actually probably see this because I've got to speak off it actually, but I hope it's of good quality. It was originally on a CD-ROM, but it's gone to VHS, so if you run that, I'll speak over it. As I get the video operating, I just want to explain to you that as the previous speaker has indicated to you, that the Northern Territory is a very large place. It's very hostile terrain with large distances, and the main thing about the terrain is that people think you can go and find something quite easy and locate objects on the ground or video stuff out there. However, you'll discover when you go out there, if you've ever been out there, it's massive. Now, the main area that we're dealing with is the McDonnell Ranges. This is not just little hills out the back. These are quite large. They go up to quite a height, as you can see. Very pretty at certain times of the day. It's a photographer's dream out there if you've got the right equipment. These are the McDonnell Ranges, looking at different directions. I haven't got the credit for all these photographs, videos and that, so other people have done them. However, you can see from the territory that in front of you now, it is a very complex area with lots of open space and very hard to get around unless, as the previous speakers indicated, you've got the right equipment and the right vehicle. Also, around the area that we're concentrating on, which is the Pine Gap area, there's an area where they won't let you inside. It's gated off. However, looking up, this is looking up towards the west, towards Pine Gap itself. You can see the ridge lines that actually run across in a east-west direction. How high they are, but this is just like a flap of faulted lines that actually create this type of embedded area where they put Pine Gap in. The reason why they put it in there, which is very strange, you think they put it on top, but they put it inside for security. But I think the army system is you put everything, you take the high ground, but in this case the Americans have taken the low ground. It's to hide it. You can see how high the territory is to get around in, so it's very complex. I'm sorry I can't actually see this. I should be speaking off it as I go along. The video's taking its time. Now, the area I'm concentrating on is called R233. It's given R233 mainly because it is designated a restricted area for aviation, especially for aviation. And I want you to note that it has a flight level restriction, which is for aviators, of 18,000 feet, which is very, very high. The reason for this is not always given. The Army don't have to give you all this information, but we believe because of the electromagnetic effects of the equipment on the base, and also they don't want you too close to the big domes, the radar domes in the area. Also, they're monitoring quite a number of satellites in the location at R233, and if you have around radar, it's very dangerous to electronic equipment and to personnel, so if you get in the way of a transmission beam or something like that, it can kind of give you a nasty burn, so you've got to be very careful. So they've made it quite high. It's very strange about the area. It has a very small, what we call perimeter zone. If you go to the United States, they lock off gigantic areas. In Australia, we're very strange. I think we've got this great big area, so they lock off a very small area. So we do the reverse. This is Alice Springs, not taken by me. That's the south entrance to Alice Springs. Pine Gap's around to the other side, to the right, and the main base is around just to the, as the video will show in a minute, it's just to the right of that main feature. You can see Alice on the top on the right. This is Alice there on the right, red feature, and and one of the girls have done a better job than I have. You're going down to the airport to the right. If you've ever been to the airport, you know how far it is out, and the road runs from out the airport. You can see up to the north up here. I wish I had a pointer to help me. You can see the road running at the north, which brings it out to Pine Gap. It's not that far out. It's worth a drive to go and take a photograph of the sign at the front gate. However, when you get to the front gate, that's as far as you can go. Pine Gap has a restriction into the gap itself. You go into the base. You go through a bit of a canyon thing to get into the base itself. So it's quite interesting. Now, getting on to the video's running a bit slow at this stage, so I'll just shoot off. You can watch the video while I speak over it. The base is called Pine Gap Joint Defence Space Research Facility. Note the Space Research Facility. I said to you it's R233. And it's been there, they usually coded, it used to be called Merino, it was a coded name, or currently in the Army we call it JDSRF, whatever that means. Army has a way of abbreviating everything. It was born in about 1965. Since then the development of, there's the actual area off an aviation map, a vet chart for Alice Springs. It was originally born in 1965 under the control of the DDST, which is a CIA arm of the Directorate of Science and Technology. Also, I want you to note science and technology. People don't realise that Army's not all about killing people, it's about detecting people, and most of science is, if you look at the statistics, most of science is devoted to killing people, so that's a bit of an all-round statement, but however, a lot of science are devoted to armaments and looking after these items. This is the area that was pointed out to the north. There's a lot of areas that you don't know about. You've got to stumble across them if you're a pilot, or you've got the right vehicles. There's radar antennas and arrays and hidden areas all over the place and not on the maps. This is one that's on the standard map that's available. This is a big array of antennas out there. In fact, it's a funny thing, they've actually marked on the aviation map it's not a landing field, so some goose in the past has tried to use it as a landing field. So it's in the outback when you're looking for somewhere to land, even though it's flat, lines like that look like fields to land. There's the actual name of the area. This is used for flying. This is a chart that you use for your vectoring to the navigation units to Alice Springs that we use all the time. You see the red circle on the left there? That's Pine Gap there. We're zooming up on to Pine Gap. You notice to the right, it's just going out of sight. That's where the balloons are launched for the displays. But that's the restricted area right there. Notice that one of our tracks, 273 out to Ayers Rock, runs right past it. They don't really care. As long as you don't go over the top of it, they're a bit worried about your position in case they do your missions there. This is not my video. I haven't got any video, but that's Pine Gap there. You can notice the establishment there. I'm sorry about the quality. It's come off another system. It's quite a large establishment. The biggest part of the establishment is actually the computer room. It's got this gigantic computer room that does all the tracking and the guidance coordination of the satellites that it controls for this area. I'll show you in a minute why it's so important. People ask, why is it out at Pine Gap? And I had a lot of time to never really realised, well, some Army friend of mine explained it to me, the reason for it being out at Pine Gap, and I'll show you in a minute. Mind you, the video that comes up about it's done by myself and it's not very good. It has two major radar domes. They're 110 feet wide. They're a little bit larger actually. They're located on the side. In the actual structure, the schematic function structure of Pine Gap is divided into many groups, and I'll just lean down here because I had to take a few notes on this. The groups are quite impressive. The schematic functions is what they call the, this is me showing you why it's there, that's the orbital plane of the Earth around the Sun. That's where you'll have midday every day, and if you notice when we come back, Pine Gap is actually on the orbital plane of the Earth's orbital plane around the Sun as we make our orbit around the Sun. Notice it goes, the plane itself is quite interesting because it runs over Mexico and things like that. If you trace and find a lot of American bases, guess where they are? They fall upon this orbital, this actual plane itself. It runs right over the Mexican peninsula type of areas where we have all the Mexican, so maybe past aviators that have come to this Earth, Von Daniken type of people, have a good reason why those pyramids are out there, you see. You notice it comes out here, the accuracy is not very good. It's a plastic globe belonging to one of my daughters and she's not getting it back. I put a texture on it, and you can see it runs right over the centre of Australia, and that's the reason for it. In fact, Brisbane and all them and Cairns are prominent in the area too. And you notice also, this is a copy taken of the satellites around the world that they keep track of. You can see the amount of debris up there. These are all live satellites, mind you, I'd like to say. It's quite amazing now, the network. So when I say live, I mean what we call orbital data that's flying around they have to keep track of. And that's the end of that tape. I'll tell you about the structure at this stage. You might like to put the, when you stop, I'll let you go. I'll keep speaking. I want to talk about the schematic function of this structure of Pine Gap. I'm not an authority on this, so if there's anybody in here that's far more knows the area better than I, would appreciate it more. However, I'll give us a better description. It's broken into three sections, which is vitally important to understand. The first one, which is an interesting concept, is called the Human Intelligence section, called HUN-INT. HUN-INT, which is very strange. The next section, which concerns me, it's called the Photo-INT section, and it's abbreviated Photo-INT, Photography Intelligence. And the last one is called SIG-INT, which is basically an army terminology for signals itself. Now, the SIG-INT section is outside my territory because it's changed. If anybody has a PC, you know every week something comes on the market news, so they're bringing stuff in all the time. However, the SIG-INT section is the area that moves the most, and that involves the telecommunication side of things called TEL-INT, and the final part called Radar-INT, or RAD-INT. There's other other items out there that are of importance, however, you don't know of these. Even though it's a joint facility, it's run by the Americans. Australians are there just as hangers-on. We play very little role there and get very little information from it. That may change in the future from what I can gather. For instance, we've got now over 400 reference articles from Pine Gap about it, and there's a gentleman called Professor Ball, I think his name is, he's the vanguard in getting this data organised. So things are changing, but at this time things are still reasonably secret out there. The most important person out there is called the SPO, it's the Signal Processing Officer. He's probably one of the most important people out there. The next person that I normally speak to is called the NRO, which is the National Recon Officer. These gentlemen you do not play around with. If they say something to you, you do it. However, they swing a lot of power and they get you a lot of, if you're in the right, do the right things, they'll get you a lot of information. The SOPO and the NARO, which the Army speak about, are very important people, and you might like to note those abbreviations down for future reference because they do pop up, except nobody knows what a SOPO is and a NARO is. So just put that down as a future reference for you to look at. Now, I just want to go back to the analysis side of things, skipping out, giving you a general indication of Pine Gap. The analysis, I might just say that the analysis, in my opinion, that I've received has been very good and pleasing to us. Normally we don't get anything, it's usually very poor. However, in this case we've been well assisted, and in my own personal opinions, it's been better than we've ever had in the past, and most researchers would be very happy with the information we've got. However, I'm not responsible for the data that's provided to us because we can't confirm things like time, location, and who presented it. However, I can virtually vouch for the authenticity and the quality of the research. You can't take my word for it, obviously, so my next recommendation is do your own research. But if you bear with me in this regards and take my word for it and listen on, I think you'd be very happy with what's about to occur. Now let's get there. The area is very active, as previously stated. There's lots of sightings out there. We don't chase all the sightings. I don't get involved with everything. However, on the 13th of October 1997, an ongoing observation was made in the Pine Gap area, just north of Pine Gap, not actually on the actual location. And if you'd like to put the next OHP up, thanks, Wendy. This OHP is my rough drawing from comments to people. You probably can't, the Scanjet hasn't produced it. You can see Alice Spring to the right up the top. These bearings are roughly done by myself and a friend of mine. We had a printout, but it was very vague. Notice the dotted, the actual clotheslines are, what a word. I mean, the actual black continuous lines are actually the tracks that we've been given. The dotted lines are the estimated departure tracks, or where the object had gone missing. Now, we concentrated on these main, even though there's a lot of activity at that stage, these were the main ones that occurred. And as you noted, a lot of the activity didn't actually stem from Pine Gap. It actually came into Pine Gap, contrary to what people believe, that most of the activity is caused by Pine Gap. In these cases, the data that's provided actually indicates the objects tracked into Pine Gap in an observation process. In one of the events, 3 witnesses reported an object had hit the ground, and even though we looked at their statements that were shown to us, we weren't allowed to copy them. Even though the statements looked very vague at first, they proved quite positive to our surprise when we got out there. The reason for that was that there's nothing to describe the area out there, but because of their knowledge of the area, these 3 witnesses gave us a very good description of where the location was and what happened, and that proved to be quite good. Now, in this, the three witnesses, the ground contact report had an interesting case where it shows in one of the videos, I think it'll come out, shows in one of the videos they reported being shone, a spotlight being shone upon them. So that's another important common event in UFO encounters. You'll see this flashing light that beams at directly at the camera or directly at them, and they noted on the ground. I think it might be the next slide. If can you show me that one? Can I just see that one? I'll just skip because I'm running out of time with them. This one, if you just push it north a bit, up north. Can you go right? There's the Pine Gap area. You notice there the restricted area for fencing and basic fencing. There's security fencing. It's very small, really. The reason for that is not known, but I think they've taken advantage of the terrain, that's all. However, it's got a lot of ground detection devices available on the area, but I know some protesters have got onto the property, but there's an ex-security department that occurs when you get into the facilities. However, you can see it's a very small area when you think about it if you've been in the United States. In the US, they really close down areas. Area 55 is a good example, and they'll wipe it off the map. We haven't caught up to them yet, but I'm sure we will in the future. Back to the subject. When I got involved, when our group got involved, I flew up on the Wednesday after the 13th of October. Spent 5 days in the field up there. We took our GPS up there to do a grid search on the area, especially the ground contact area, which was our main concentration. We didn't know about videos at that stage, but we were interested about the ground contact. At the same time, I met the Sapo and the Naro was there. They escorted us around the area. However, I also met some friends of mine from DSTO. There was 3 of them up there that were collecting samples that were taken back to Point Wakefield in South Australia to be shipped off to labs for analysis. Those chaps were dressed up for some unknown reason. We weren't, so I don't know what the worry was. So I presume they were a bit worried about the situation. However, they took samples and shipped them off to South Australia. Now, where they go from there is another secret outside my area. The samples we got went back to Monash University, and they were put on analysis, which I don't have here today. It's too too much to talk about. However, maybe at a future conference I can speak to you about that area. But the main interesting point was the security, the cameras that took the video that day, which I'm coming to now. And I just want to quickly stem into the actual security cameras. They're very high resolution cameras. I don't know what make they are. However, they're based on a stable platform. It's a gimbal type platform that stabilises. It's very high technology type of stuff. It's something that could you put number 2 video on, thanks? And don't start until I spill it until I'm just loaded, if it'd be great. And on the actual camera itself, the stability of it's very vital. These high resolution cameras have stability, and these cameras were placed when the activity started. The cameras were taken out and placed in certain specific areas to try to capture the images that were recorded in the location. Now, it's not unusual to see UFOs up there. However, when they intruded on the airport and then onto the base itself, authorities got alarmed, so they went to have a bit of a look. However, if anything happened outside the area, they just leave it to other researchers to get involved. So it was surprising for them to actually have a look at it. I'm assured, even though no soundtrack was given to me, which is not uncommon, if we did the Knowles report, Paul Norman and others who did the Knowles report, not the Frederick Valentage, one of the first things they grabbed is the sound recording. I have been informed that there's no unusual anomaly EMF effects on the soundtrack that was provided with the camera crew, but I can't confirm, I can't verify that, but they must have looked at it for some reason. I might also state that there's, at first when you look at the video, there's a bit of atmospheric distortion. Some cameras, astronomy cameras can compensate for this, but these cameras will not. So if you're a technically minded person, please take that into consideration. Also, some of these frames, there's lots of frames, we're only giving a few here. Some of them have been computer manipulated for stability, just so that they don't wobble all over the place. So it makes your vision and makes the research a little bit easier. So that's a technique where they just take each frame and then recenter it again. Outside my territory, I've seen it done, but it's very interesting stuff. Then they re-spool it back through again, and it comes out quite stable. But it gets rid of the movement and also enhances it and also blows it up a bit. So could you just spool the first video through? I can't see it, I should actually. This is all my handiwork, by the way, but just to get a start. When it comes on, it's supposed to be only 15 seconds. You wouldn't work out how time goes and these things. Usually it goes fast and slow. The scanning of these cameras is not very good. There we go. Right here. This is the... I hope it comes on. Here we go now. Right, this is the distant object. This is the night vision one. You can, from the angle I'm on here, you can note that there's two objects there, one on the right and one on the bottom. You notice their movement. These are stabilised, so they're actually moving around each other, which is quite extraordinary. Now, this will commonly be seen up in, up north, up towards the north area. They've been seen in Queensland and all those areas, but these were captured at the early stages of the encounter. And interesting about them, you can see them, they're wobbling around each other and moving in some coordinated fashion. And did you notice that flare occurring at that stage, as if a beam of light actually goes towards the camera? Notice the beam there, and flares the camera through the lens. The actual objects are at some distance at that stage, tracking in. This is the only one we've been given to indicate the movement of the objects prior to them setting up for the close-up shots, which comes on the next video. There is another video which I can't show. I did bring it with me, but it actually shows another close-up. But you can see that it's in partnership. There's two there. There is a third one, but it pops up now and then. And you can see they're quite prominent. And you notice at the top there's, we thought it was cloud. Sometimes you notice cloud if you see a searchlight in the distance of a club, opening of a club. you think it's a searchlight. However, I've been assured there was no cloud that night, and we've checked it out, and it's sometimes a beam of light of high intensity. If the atmosphere is very dense in the Northern Territory, the moisture in the air will create a reflection back towards the camera. It looks like a plasma shot. You know, sometimes you see a searchlight, you see the side of a searchlight. We believe it's like a jettisoning of light or a beam of some sort as it moves around the object. You'll see it at the top on most occasions. But you can see these objects are quite distant. They disappear and move quite a bit. But that's about the common sights you get on you. That's about the best we normally get. So when you get something like that, you don't do very much. You can't. They're just the basic lights in the sky, damn lights in the sky. But the next one proves quite good when we show that one. I'll just speak over while that's going on. There was, from what our records are given to us, there was 10 events recorded, which are of significance. The objects were solid in nature, three-dimensional. At the objects, when this spills off, I'll go to the next one shortly. When the objects were three-dimensional, they had a halo effect around it. We thought it was a camera effect, but there was a halo effect. The night objects demonstrated some coordination and some spin, and you see a blow up here as one gets closer. I think it comes up shortly. That was a distance shot. We go into the close-up. This is to demonstrate how it disappears and pops up again. There they are. You can see it. There's a flash, a flare towards you. No object, but a flare. And this, I hope it spills into the next one. Here's the other one. There's some movement. It's moving around. You can see them. You can see they're like common process you get in these cases, like playing with each other. I'll rephrase that again. I mean coordinating movement with each other. It's just a classical lights in the sky. But interesting formations occur. Very strange stuff. I'll let you observe that as it comes. You see the flare in the top left-hand corner, like a beam occurred. Very strange. It's like a cloud of some sort. But now this is a blow-up of the closer one. Now it looks like it's flaring the bottom. We thought when we got it was just like a flare in the lens or something of that nature. However, it's from the object itself. If you know about flaring, if something's slightly out of focus, it expands and gets this flare appearance. But in this case, no. We've had it looked at, and it's to do with the object itself. Now, if you notice the bands, if you've seen Quentin Fogarty's New Zealand photographs, movies that took over New Zealand, what was it, 1980 or something around that period? Well, I can't recall it now. 78, that's right. These are very similar. In fact, I was surprised how close they were. And in fact, in some of the good vision on the CD-ROM that was provided to us, you can see the object spinning in an anti-clockwise direction. You can see all these lines, and if you look very careful, as it's blown up, you can see 3 rings in the centre. You have to look careful because I'm in the wrong position to show you when it occurs. But you probably see the 3 rings in the centre. But you can see the banding. And there's a bit of atmospheric distortion in regards to this, but that's how the object actually looks. And you can see at the top it's like gassing off. There's this plasma, it's gassing off some type of item at some sort. Now these are night vision, you can't do, that's what we call the best vision, where it's at high intensity. However, unfortunately, night vision video is not very interesting, but in this case with the camera, with a good camera, you're able to see a lot of data inside, and you can see this halo effect as if it's streaming off a plasma of some sort. It's not ball lightning. It took too long and it's manoeuvring around. It's nothing that they could actually estimate. There is a bit of atmospheric distortion. Please take note. You can see on the right and left there's some type of features. It's got a classical shape to it, but there's some type of feature off the left and right of it. And then you notice it flares up and down. But there's one stage here, I think it's on this field system, it shows you as it disappears, it slowly fades out into like 2 objects and then pops back up again. But it's a classical system, it's quite interesting. But it's pretty boring type of stuff to the public because it's just a light in the sky. But if you're technically minded, you can see a lot of data there. It can reveal a lot of data. They were estimated, varying which one video you looked at, from anything from 20 metres to 35 metres wide, in diameter, sorry. They varied in distance. The closest I've been told it came to was 3.2 kilometres to the camera, which is very close. So I haven't seen the total close-up, but that's very good for a good camera. Any camera, that person who knows a camera, if you get to that distance, you can get some very good photographs. They did tell us that the source of light was very powerful. Notice the banding in that shot. No clouds, and also note that there's edges to the object. They do stick out. You can see the edges, and that's typical New Zealand. If you saw the New Zealand footage, it's very similar to that. I think you would agree. So it's very similar. And you notice these close-ups blown up, the pixel ratings increase, so the contrast has gone, the quality's gone. But you can see on the edges, it's got the classical rounded edges. It's a very good quality. I might just say it's the venting gas of some sort, which I'll describe later on. Video analysis said that they believe that there's I'm going to get this right, a litho-mounted plane-grated spectroscope was placed on it, and they told us it was H2O, water being produced. So if anybody's been in the UFO business, you know one of the things we were after, they seem to be after, is water sources. So we've been now assured that the venting gases off the side were H2O, so that's quite interesting. Now, if anybody who's involved with rocketry or anything like that, you realise hydrogen and oxygen together produce your Sept 5. Most of your basic high-level, high-velocity rockets use H2O, LOC and liquid hydrogen, so there may be a hint there. But I think the most important thing is the plasma stage that it's in. But using the spectroscope, the plane-graded spectroscope through the lens itself, which is, I believe it's the lights pass back through the lens, out through the lens into the spectrograph, like astronomers do, and they can take a reading in certain areas. They claim, will indicate to us that it was H2O, so it's very important. Again, I might just say it has the classical UFO shape. I'll just keep talking until this video runs out, if you'd like to observe that. This further analysis has been done on the gas vented. That hasn't been provided to me. However, I have been informed that they will give me that data, but I don't know if it's going to be released. It's very hard to sometimes get that data given to you. So I'm hoping that we can sometime in the future give it to or have it printed up for somebody to look at. This is about to go, but notice the band's moving around. I'll just let you observe while I speak. Let's see, let's go on. I'll just let this run out for a moment. When I spoke to the Sapo and the Naro, they were very excited. In fact, normally they're very quiet people. They don't really get involved with these things. These are incidentals to make their day even worse. It's not a nice place to be all the time, very lonely, but this is when it's fading out. Notice it seems to disappear in the... It hasn't gone anywhere, I've been told. It just seems to dematerialise in a sense, much like Star Trek itself. But note that's the high intensity there, very bright. Contrast that to the daytime one, which is the main one I want to show you, which is the most important one. The most important one in this case. At night it has this high, you know, this area that's so bright that you can't see into it. In daytime, the opposite occurs, as you will see. In fact, just recently I saw on one of the programs out of the United States, Encounters I think it was, about some gentleman who's doing analysis in the United States, I can't think his name, indicated that you might have seen it today, I wasn't at the last one of the lectures, about this dark area in some of these sightings in Mexico and the United States where it's absolutely black. Nothing seems to get out. It's pitch black. And the next video, which we'll spool up in a minute, this problem occurs, not problem, this interesting feature occurs. This is nearly out. Would you like to see it spool out or stop it there? Okay, we'll go on to the next one. Would you like to load? I'll just speak over. There was we took an infrared infrared camera up to set up to have a look because we want to look in the other spectrum. Using the visual spectrum is not very limiting, but so we took the infrared camera up there. However, like always, we did the narrow Warren stuff too. We got nothing. Nothing happened, unfortunately, which is pretty typical. But we wanted the infrared to be used. The people that worked on the case were very good to us. The scientists on the case, they seemed to work quite well for us. Now, this is the daytime. It's extraordinary footage because daytime is very rare footage. The shaking, I'm sorry about that, but that's the best we've given. It looks, you've got to watch the object itself, but it's very close to the camera. And at one stage, not this one, but the other one, you can see this halo effect around the side, which we see in the night one, and we believe that's the H2O venting out of the object itself. Now it seems like there's two objects stuck together there, and notice how pitch black it is the object, how pitch black it is. So it's extraordinary footage in that sense that it's the closest I've seen something of this quality. Again, one of the big problems that you face when you see something like this is why can't I see all the holes and the portholes and that? But the explanation which we're driving towards nowadays is that it's a plasma state or dimensional thing. In other words, there's something black. It's like a black hole in the atmosphere. This object occurs where light, it's either highly produces a whole lot of light or absorbs a lot of light. There's a great amount of extreme. It's not one or the other. And the daylight, it goes the opposite. It becomes very light and very dark, and then at night you get this glowing effect. So what the mechanism of operation is, I don't know, but you can see it's quite dark itself. I think in this one, I can't recall the last time I saw it was a couple of days ago. I think it rotates around. Yes, go ahead. Yep. Yes, that's to do with the actual object moving and the camera trying to keep pace with it. It's moving actually. It's a gimbaled, like a stabilised system, yes, but somebody's got to track it. It's being tracked like these bigger cameras. They have little devices, I can't remember what they call them. A technician will be able to help me with that, which they can track it through a viewfinder. However, if it gets close with the resolution, it can do a lot of shaking. I believe it's been just slowed up for your shots, but you can see it's very close. But it's why I say it's good quality. If you do vision, we don't get very good quality photographs, videos of UFOs given to us, mainly night ones. However, this one's interesting because it's quite a large object. You can actually get a lot of data out of it. I'd like to see the original tape because that would have much more. This is only scanned at VHS or whatever, so it's not very good quality. But the CD-ROM was a lot better. However, we put it on our computer with the standard 128 what is DPI, what is square, and it came out a lot. You switch that off. It came up a lot clearer. But you can see that the object is very dark in nature, as defined areas. It was quite impressive in my point of view, from a technical point of view, and to friends of mine who do this type of research, they thought it was very good, and a lot of work's going to be done on it, or the quality we've been given, just to have a look at the edge, especially around the edge, and see if we can blow some more stuff up. However, we didn't actually, we've been kind of privileged in the sense of getting this vision. That wasn't the original case. The original case was mainly to do the groundwork, to speak to the witnesses outside the area. But this has just been like an added bonus to it, because it adds to the case itself. We've got actually not only witnesses to the case, the ground effects, but we've got actually the object captured on video. And the daylight photography is always better than night photography. And as Bill indicated, I'm always sceptical about videos because they're easy to manipulate and the camera work. However, if it comes from a reasonably good source and you can clarify that, you can be pretty sure that you're on a good thing there. So, like I said, I'm very happy with the data. It's not perfect, but one of the things you do discover when you do this research, that it's the reason why it's not perfect is because there's some type of, the phenomenon itself is somehow creating the illusion, or not the illusion, the camera's not able to pierce the reality that's going on inside the plasma area, this circle. So you tend, like Quentin Fogarty found out when they thought they could see it visually very easy, but when they put it off the camera, they found that the camera picked up a lot of anomalies. There was a lot of movement from the aircraft, but there was interesting thing was that the data becomes, by the time it gets back through the camera, becomes scattered badly. To their eyes, they were very happy with what they saw. They were extremely excited about the actual case, and it's very unusual in these cases. But our main investigation was mainly to call in to have a bit of give a second opinion. In regards to it, when we arrived on the site, escorted on the site, we were shown the area that was responsible to the area. Now, if you could just put the next OHP up, could you just let's have a look at that one. No, you can pass that one. I might have thrown out of order. Go past the next one. Thanks very much, Wendy. No, Sept, no, pass that one. And the next one you can go by. This is a safe, that's the one. This is a safe time because we're running out of time. I hope this comes out. This is done by, let's have a look. It's the other way around. No, there's arrows should be facing up, I think. Oh, which way am I going? No, wrong way around, I think. I've got to look at it myself. Excuse me. Spin it the other way around, thanks, Wendy. Sorry. Yeah, switch around, that's it. Okay. This is a... I'm sorry, we use a laser jet, not a laser jet, inkjet to do all these OHPs. It's not as good as so not very high quality. But if you notice there, we've hand put this in, but there was these were the areas affected from the ground. The arrow on the left is a tree that was affected, and the arrow on the right was where the other tree was affected. The two, like the mining sites in the north and south areas, or the north, west and south east area, they were the areas where the impact occurred. Now in that area the soil had been clumped into like a crystal stuck together, like on a nuclear site. You've ever seen those where they're fused together? That was quite interesting. In fact, we took a tremendous amount of material out of there. We weren't the other ones, but there was a lot of stuff there. But it was all fused together, and it's been looked at now why it was fused together. But the first opinion was from the people on the ground that we spoke to at that stage, from the other people that came on from the DSTO people, was that it looked like it had been heat fused by heat. So now, if you remember back at the original video, there was a lot of flaring coming into the camera. Now the witnesses on the, if you can slide it up, just slide it up a bit if you could, just up. On the bottom there's three W's at the bottom. There were three witnesses that were collected by the authorities that were located in that area. This is just a little bit north of Pine Gap in the next valley up, which was also reported as being very active area on the main road. And that was their location there. So they were very close to the area. And they said that the object, or the beam or whatever it was, like ran into the mountains, ran into the landform, and when they went over there, the trees were all glazed and not split, which I'll show later on, but they'd been glazed, and the actual ground had all these goblets of fused silicon and things of that nature. Now where the other dots are, you can see, I wish I had a pointer, but you can see from the left under the arrow where the tree is, there's these areas where as if something had actually fused the soil in this, like a snake bend through the main impact area itself up to the next tree. You see as if the two trees have been joined together by a fused area. Again, no explanation, I can't offer one to you, but it's quite interesting that it seems to be a controlled pattern of some sort. I could have brought a sample up for you. It's worth handling. It was very heavy, but it's as if it's been stuck together like a nuclear site, as if it's all been glued together, just fused. It's quite amazing. But the reason for the fusing, I don't know, and the technical information will be produced later on because there's melting points involved. However, it occurred in this ground area here, and it's absolutely extraordinary. But we picked up so much stuff, and we were freely able to take it up. And so did the other people too that were there. They picked up lots of it, but it was only in those. This is not an accurate reproduction of the area, but in that general area, it was in like this type of kidney-shaped format. But there was a lot of it there, I can tell you very much, and just in balls of about fist size, some of them. Quite interesting. Again, technically, we'll look at that later on. There's too much research to be done in it. Done on it before we can come to some conclusion, but it's definitely, I can give you a sample later on at some future lecture to show you what it's like. We've got the samples and they haven't taken it off us at this stage. Also what we did, we had a Fairchild infrared cold thermal head camera with us, which we placed on one of the aircraft. We took it up, we wanted to measure in the 4,000, 10,000 nanometer wavelength, which is more important because we can see things that you don't normally see. That's in the infrared section of the spectrum. And we took it up to a flight level 200, which is about 20,000 feet, stuck the camera out of a little porthole, which is on the aircraft, and there's a lot of shaking. If you could spool up number 5 video. And we captured, went back to the area just north of Pine Gap and captured some ground vision. And you'll notice this is at night. Yes, we do the infrared at night because the sun affects the cameras dramatically. These are not gassed up. The old cameras were all gas. They used to have to thermally cool down the lens and the pickups. And these new ones, they're all highly technical systems now. They can run on cold, without any they're gassed inside, but they run on cold at room temperature. However, you must run them at night. You have to take a cover off them, and they must be run at night. And oh, this is the tree. I've got it out of sequence. So this is the tree. This is I'll show you this, and I'll show you a photograph. You can see here, it's not lightning strike, and I'll show you why, courtesy of Dick Smith. You see this, this running down. We saw it on a few other trees, so it must have occurred. But this was on the two main trees. It's like this glaze. Can you see the glazing effect on the tree itself? And this line that ran up the tree. Samples were taken, and I didn't have it. We went back later on. We took a core sample to look if the cells, how far it went inside. But they took a core out of the white section. This is a thermal image. Took a core out of the white section and the dark section, and other samples of other trees. Now the shaking is due to us. We're hand holding the camera through a port under the aircraft at the left loading bay of the aircraft at quite high. And you can see the thermal image itself is on the area. There's the area right there.
So there's a correspondence in this
area? Yes, so it came in fact, when we flew over the area, we thought we'd have to, we put the GPS up when we left out of Alice Springs. We climbed to 20,000 on the, oh right, it's too late now, I think I need to do it. Actually, I'm probably a bit naive on this. How do I start this thing up? Oh, I've got the button here. There. Oh, there you go. It's the areas up here. You can see all the cold area here. This is all thermally you have to wait till around about midnight, by the way, because it takes a while for the heat to actually leave dissipate back into the atmosphere, which is a standard process. And you've got to make sure there's not much cloud. Whoops, not much cloud around. But you can see this thermal activity area right here. There's some areas a very hot area, and if you look at it, you can see there's a lot of activity there, and it works quite well within the area. It's not perfect data, but it gives you a good idea that we're looking at an active area and something's occurred there. So it's vitally important. There is more to that, but that's just a simple process because we're going to run out of time.
More than 1 degree of difference?
Yes, the new cameras that we've got now, Martin, yes, they're so good. In fact, they can go lower, in fact. But yes, we work in a degree, especially that altitude. You've got to understand the atmosphere. H2O, water in the atmosphere affects infrared cameras. So we work, Martin just pointed out a very important point, we work in increments of 1 degree. However, the camera, if I brought the camera into you and wanted to take a photograph of you, I could actually reduce it into a smaller percentage of... it's worked on Kelvin, by the way, not in Celsius. It works on a Kelvin base, but you can dial it into a lower Kelvin ratio and get much more detailed information. But at high altitude, 1 degree is ample. In fact, I think we could spill it up to about 5 degrees differentials between the layers. But 1 degree came out quite well because of the night. It was a very good night. But you've got to be worried about you've got to measure the ground temperature, and then also monitor the atmospheric temperature, and then dial in that information, because it does compensate for that information. But it's great information. Gives you a lot of visual stuff. Yes, go ahead. That was about, we went on the Wednesday, so it was about a day and a half after. It wasn't that long after, it was still hot as, but that's not uncommon. If any of you have worked with infrared, you can leave a palm print on a door for quite a long time. It's surprising. Depends also, the thermal imaging system works in a different frequency, so once you start the atomic structure vibrating, and it can go for a very long time. It can be rotating. And another thing you might note too, which we think has occurred, if there's a chemical reaction occurring, it may take days for that chemical reaction to actually peter out. So what we believe has occurred, rather than like a heat source like a palm print where it slowly dissipates because there's heat being placed there, we believe a chemical reaction's taking place. Do you understand what I'm getting at? It's not a heat source being laid there, it's a chemical process occurring. I don't want to blind you with this because you have to, it's a lot of information, but it's quite interesting because it tells you there's a different process going on, there's some activity going on in the soil itself. And this applies to crop circles too, which we've used on. The activity can go on for days later on. So it's something chemical going on in the soil rather than a footprint occurring on the soil. But that's a very good question too. Thanks for that. Let me see. And how's my time going? Just about right, actually.
Describe the mechanics of the impact. Was it a UFO that skidded?
In fact, yes. In fact, funny. I'll just put this down for a second, one moment. Not to get off the track, but yes, the impact was strange. I have a copy of this. I did have a OHP of the statement. The impact was quite unusual. The impact was the object, this ball of light, approached the three witnesses, zapped the trees, then put like machine gun those potholes, along from one tree to the other, then struck the ground, then did a ricochet up a little bit and hit the ground again, and then just went off again, disappeared. And it was enough for them to feel like a blast effect. That's it scared the life out of them, but it was enough to create that impression that something was physically going, not metaphysical type of thing. It was a physical thing. Works all the time. Metaphysical thing actually occurring. I'm running out of time there. That's a good point. It was like a ricochet. Yes, go ahead. I can't give that, but just in the next the next valley up. That's the best place. Just go to the next valley. I can't. I really wouldn't know. I don't actually know who owns all the. I might just say to you, I travel a lot, but you don't get to know who owns the properties. There's Australia. I'd have to go and look at the title deeds, but we were taking onto the site ourselves. But yes, it's outside their security area. Just go into the next valley. That's my best. Go and have. Yes, if you know what I mean. That's the best way of doing it. So it's just north of the site itself. Okay, I'll just zoom through here. I'll just see if there's anything important. We did some magnetic information. I just want to show you one thing we'll conclude on because of the time. Could you just spill through there for the lightning strike? You'll see a gentleman at a tree that's broken. There you go, that's the one. Put that one up. This is courtesy of Dick Smith. Well, I'd like to thank Dick Smith. This is from Australian Geographic, number 48, October, December 1997. Pages, I think this was page 66. And it hasn't scanned up well at all compared to what is that not very clear. However, you can see that's a lightning strike on a tree, and every tree I've seen that's hit by lightning creates that type of what happens. The lightning superheats the cell, the water in the cell, and the expansion rate's so rapid because of the amount of voltage running through the tree. The tree just absolutely erupts. In this case, nothing like that at all. It was all glazed over. So the mechanics of that I really don't know. There is more information, but I think I'll take a few questions, but I will stop there. That's the end of the videos. You might like to ask some questions, so I'll stop there. Okay, right.
What was the duration of the actual ground shock event?
Sorry, I haven't got them, but it was a very rapid, Bill. It was like an object approaching them, and then bang, bang, and off it went. It's just simple as that. But in the statements that were provided to us, they were very vague statements. So very, very vague. But yes, it was like an object, just like an aircraft coming in, hitting the ground and disappearing back off into the atmosphere again. But it was a very short, rapid movement.
No debris?
No debris, just all this glazing effect around the area. No debris at all. In fact, that's a good question. I forgot about that one. We went looking for something like metallic or something like that. We found nothing. That was my first action. If there's something that's grazed the ground like an aircraft, it leaves a lot of aluminium around, or some L-clad or something like that, or zinc chromate. Nothing at all.
So the three ground witnesses civilians or?
Yes, locals, Koori people, so very good witnesses. You've got to understand they're very shy, well, as previous say, very shy, and they're very good witnesses in our opinion. And they gave a very simple description, but a very good one.
Were they originally interviewed by?
Yes, I was shown to them. Yes, base people, Sept and Naro were interviewed them themselves. Yes, the reason for that is that they wanted to get full statements from them, but they didn't offer very much detail, which is not uncommon anyway. If you're, I would be pretty well scared. I'm going to describe it in the smallest detail as possible. There's a question over there.
Yes. How did you come to hear about it?
Through my connections in the army. I'm still in the army or ex-army, so friends in the army. I do a lot of my research comes through army process.
Do you have any thoughts why they would give you this information?
Well, again, they've stumped themselves. They're looking for other ideas too. They've got a very the Army's, the Defence Force has got a very good scientific department. It's gigantic if you're into it. It's worth looking up. but they're always looking for other opinions, especially in these cases where they're looking for other ideas. However, the main thing is that from the outside, I'm just a basic civilian type of thing. They were just looking for other ideas.
These little globules,
yes.
What were the dimensions of them?
About fist size, Bill. They varied in size, but most of them were about fist size and extremely heavy. They were actually compacted, like in the fusing process, they're quite round. Didn't have a uniform, not in a spherical sense, but as if if you, you're in a ball shot tower where they drop balls. And once you heat it up, as it gets into gravity, out of gravity field, it goes into a circle. They were like that. Quite amazing.
Remember the Shrinkback cave in South America? There were globules associated with that.
Like the meat, is that the meat?
There was an entity cave floating down.
I don't.
And the whole pile of globules found.
I don't know of that. I might speak to you later on about it because, yes, it's quite unusual. I've got little samples of them too, so they're quite good. Yes, Mark?
Did you test for any residual radioactivity?
Yes, that was done. We have a Geiger counter on the site. There was nothing at all. But I think most of the researchers that take a Geiger counter on the site very readily find, apart from background radiation and that type of stuff, there was nothing special on the site at all. So it was quite interesting.
You said these objects were heavy. What was the estimate of density?
I haven't done that, and it's a simple process. All I've got to virtually do is stick it in some water, and but I haven't done that. But that's being done at the moment. I can give that data to you when it comes, but I can tell you they were very, very, very heavy. I think it was to do with the condensing of the mass had been, compressed. In other words, in sand, there's a lot of air in sand, especially in the desert. You can pick up the desert in Mali or out in the bush, and the sand will run through your hands, and this had disappeared. All this, as if it had been degassed. You see what I'm trying to get at? It's as if all the gas had been removed and they got, whoops, just like that. Talk about nerves. That's exactly right, yes. I'll get somebody to fix that up. Oops, I've even broken the mic. How about that? There we go. I'll just take two more last questions.
The UFO that was shown in the video,
yes, which I
thought to be the one that crashed?
No, they're not. The one that crashed was not recorded. I might just state to that. However, the events are over a period of time, so no, it wasn't to do with that. In fact, the one that hit the ground didn't occur that night, but the general consensus amongst the group that I was with, I didn't speak to the authorities, was that they were all related. They're either a group of objects in the area or just the two doing all the mucking around. So that was the main process. I think there's one over here. Yes, the lasso there.
Yes, I just wanted to ask what the zoom factor was on the video because there was nothing to scale it against.
No, the zoom factor varies. I haven't got that data. In fact, we asked for that data, and I believe the camera on board has they have a digital ability to zoom, so it could be anything. Optical, I think, goes to about, depending on the camera, depending on what type of camera it is, optical goes something to 18 or 20 zoom, but after that up to 200 or 300 zoom, I think, depending on the lens you got on board. I think the zoom can go up to 200, but I think it'll be in around about the 200 power. Oh yes. And also I might just say a lot of this stuff that's given to me has been tampered with, but that's not uncommon anyway. But the zoom can vary depending on type, if you're going with optics or with the digital side of things. But depends on the camera. Don't have that data. I believe the lens can be. I did ask, the lens could be taken off, so they could change the lens. Is that correct? There we are, it's verified. So obviously you can take the lens off. Now where the spectroscope goes, I have no idea, but I presume a little mirror pops down and they just sample a bit of, put an eyepiece on, haven't seen it done, and just extract it on the side and extract the light off they want to do the sampling. And there was one more down here before I go to the last one. Yes?
Is there any radar of the thing after the fact?
No, I don't know what on the base would be. There's nothing at Alice Springs at all. At night there was nothing available for radar, so there was nothing at all. I don't know what's going on at the base. I might just say I've got nothing to do with the base itself. The activity that goes on in there is their business. But yes, there's plenty of radar domes there, but it's over the actual feature to the north of them. But I presume they've got something going on. And the last one.
It was just in relation to the base again. To me, this is the first time I've heard of the Americans assisting anybody finding out about UFO.
It's not the... basically, that's a very good question. I would... I think they would help you in the sense that it's a good question. I can't explain it to you because my impression is working in the Defence Force is that even though we tend to poo-ha them a lot, they're reasonably naive in what's going on, all the process. We just assume that they're manipulating all this stuff. But they can be quite good to you sometimes. But yes, it is a strange, I'll give you that, especially handing over video. In fact, when we went up there, we were going for soil samples, and when we got the video, I thought, set up, there's something going on, But my reading of the situation was, I felt quite happy with it. That's why I put it as just a cautionary part. But
would you advise that the video event
no.
and the ground impact event occurred on the same night?
No, that we were told that it was different nights. However, there was a video. I don't know what the sequence is, but but the actual events were all related to each other. There was like a lot of activity on the period. But yes, the sequencing events is very vague at this moment. Nothing's been given to me on it. However, the important part to it is that they were happy. We were given this data later on, so you never know. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Yep.
Which side of Pine Gap did you enter from?
Sorry?
Which side of the field did you enter from?
We came through the main gate itself. Yep.
Main Gate, they let you know.
Yes. Yep.
Can you see that site from daytime?
Sorry, what's that? The landing site, where the impact areas. Yes, you can.
And is there any more of that stuff there?
No, it's all gone.